Welcome to relationship psychology. There is a precise moment when everything breaks for her. It's not during the argument. It's not when you leave. It's not when you stop writing. It's when she finally understands that you won't come back. When her mind stops telling herself that you'll reappear and begins to whisper something that tightens her chest. This time, it's different. That's when her fall begins, and that's when your peace truly starts. At first, she refuses to believe it. She clings to the version of you she knew, the man who always came back, the one who explained, the one who tried to fix everything. She convinces herself that your silence is just pride, that you'll give in like the other times, but the days go by and you don't show up. And that emptiness that didn't exist before starts to become real, because your absence isn't anger, it's a decision. That's when she begins to feel something she never expected to feel with you: insecurity. The insecurity of no longer having access to you, of not knowing what you're thinking, of no longer being able to capture your attention. Your silence is no longer something she can control, and that completely disarms her. Because when a man stops reacting, he becomes unpredictable, and the unpredictable commands respect. While you choose calm, she plunges into confusion. She checks her phone without realizing it. She rereads old conversations. She looks for signs where there are none, not because she already misses you, but because she's starting to fear that she's lost something precious. She begins to remember your consistency, your presence, your way of being there without making a sound. She starts to realize that you weren't as replaceable as she thought. You were stable. You were solid. You were the kind of man people only truly value once he's gone. And you, in the meantime, do nothing. You don't write, you don't explain, you don't come back, you move forward. And it's precisely that forward movement that hits her, because your silence doesn't demand attention. Your silence confirms that you've chosen your dignity. And when a woman realizes that a man has chosen himself, she feels something very clear. She arrived too late. Before continuing, do something for yourself. Like this video if you've ever chosen to walk away so you wouldn't lose yourself. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because here we don't talk about going backward. We talk about healing and moving forward. Share this video to help wake up other men and leave a single word in the comments: overcome, because that's exactly what you're doing, even if you don't fully see it yet. What she's starting to feel now isn't anger or misplaced pride. It's the first crack of a deep loss. And what you're starting to feel is genuine relief. After the initial shock, she enters a silent phase that almost no one notices, but that reveals everything about her denial. She doesn't cry, she doesn't write, she doesn't expose herself. She convinces herself that nothing serious is happening, that it's just a pause, that you're taking your time. She repeats to herself that you've always come back before, that this time won't be different, because accepting the truth, accepting that you won't return, would mean admitting that she's lost you for good, and she can't do that yet. But denial has an expiration date. Every day that passes without news from you, without any reaction, without any attempt at contact, the story she's telling herself starts to waver. There's no longer any sign that you're waiting, no impulsive message, no excuse to think you're still there. And that constant absence begins to disturb her, not yet out of love, but out of loss of control. Realizing that she can no longer draw your attention whenever she once wounds her ego directly, she suddenly notices details she ignored before. Your consistency, your firmness, the fact that you didn't play games. And that destabilizes her, because she expected an emotional reaction, not such a clean withdrawal. She expected words, not silence. She expected insistence, not dignity. The longer your absence lasts, the clearer something becomes. Something she struggles to accept. You're not trying to get her back. That discovery shakes her, because for the first time, she no longer feels desired, but dispensable. Not in a cruel way, but in the most real way possible. You're continuing your life without needing her. And when a woman realizes she's no longer essential to a man's emotional balance, something breaks inside her. It's not rejection. It's complete disorientation. She no longer knows where she stands in relation to you. While she's still trying to convince herself that it's temporary, you keep moving forward. That contrast is brutal. Your calm against her inner doubt, your silence against the noise inside her, your firmness against her need to understand. Without even realizing it, you now occupy a different place in her mind. You're no longer the man who always came back. You've become the man who truly left. That's where something she didn't want to feel begins to sprout, the suspicion that it might already be too late. And that suspicion, even if it doesn't fully hurt yet, gives her no peace. That's where denial begins to crack and makes way for something far more uncomfortable for her. Doubt settles in because she can no longer hold on to the idea that you'll return like before. If you were going to, you would have already. That simple, merciless logic takes root in her mind without permission. Your silence stops being interpretable and becomes final. She starts asking questions she never asked herself with you before, not out of love, but out of growing anxiety. Why doesn't he write? Why doesn't he try to fix things? Why doesn't he fight? Each question strikes at her sense of security. Because you no longer react like the man she thought she knew. You don't try to convince her. You don't ask for explanations. You don't need anything. And that completely unsettles her. Something very concrete happens here. Your value starts rising in her mind precisely because you're no longer available. She begins remembering details she took for granted. Your steady presence, your calm, your quiet way of supporting her. The more she recalls, the more she understands that you weren't just any man. You were present, solid, hard to replace, and she let you go. While you remain firm in your decision, she starts losing emotional footing. She doesn't know whether to write, to wait, to accept that you're no longer part of her life. That indecision exhausts her, because for the first time, she's not the one setting the pace. It's you, or rather your absence. And then a feeling she'd never experienced with you appears. Fear. Not romantic fear, but the fear of having made an irreversible mistake, of having underestimated a man who was truly there, of having assumed you'd always be available. Because when a man leaves quietly, without blame and without looking back, he leaves a much deeper mark than the one who stays to argue. Your silence doesn't just confuse her, it forces her to face reality, and that reality is harsh. She lost a man who didn't create drama, who didn't ask for much, who was simply there, and now he's not. While she begins to feel the weight of that loss, you feel something entirely different. Certainty. The certainty that walking away was the right choice, that not coming back isn't running away, it's growth, that not reacting isn't weakness, it's control. What she's experiencing now is the start of her inner storm. What you're experiencing is the beginning of your true tranquility. This is where her ego truly begins to crack. We're no longer talking about light doubt or passing confusion. Here comes the blow she never saw coming, realizing she's lost all control over you. While you maintain your silence and keep moving forward, she discovers a feeling she never thought she'd have with you: powerlessness. She wonders when she stopped mattering enough for you to return. That question disarms her, because for a long time she believed your presence was guaranteed, your patience infinite. She thought she could stretch it, test it, demand it without consequences. And now she sees that no, even a good, stable, present man has limits, and you reached yours. Her pride begins to crumble, not visibly to the world, but inside, quietly. She realizes she can no longer provoke any reaction in you. No anxiety, no jealousy, no urgency. Your calm confronts her with an uncomfortable truth. She has no more emotional power over you. That's devastating for someone used to being at the center. She starts comparing, almost involuntarily. Her mind does it automatically. She compares you to other men, and she loses. Because others react, insist, chase. You don't. You chose to leave quietly, without lowering yourself, without begging. In that comparison, she begins to understand something that hurts. She underestimated a man of real value. That's when regret starts to emerge, even if it doesn't yet have a name. She remembers how you were, how you supported her, how you never faltered. She wonders how she could have missed what was right in front of her, because now that you're gone, she sees it clearly, too late. Your absence illuminates everything she ignored. While she breaks inside, you do nothing. You don't celebrate, you don't attack, you don't return. You live your life. And that quiet indifference is what hits her hardest, because nothing is harder than losing someone who doesn't hate you, but simply no longer needs you. This is the point where her ego falls and yours rebuilds, where she understands she didn't lose just any man. She lost a solid, consistent, rare man, and you understand that leaving was an act of self-respect. This is where the pain she feels stops being confusion and becomes a real, tangible loss. It's no longer an abstract idea. It's a heavy feeling that settles in her chest when she accepts something definitive. The man who left won't come back. That realization arrives without drama, without announcement, quietly, just like your absence. She feels the void in the simplest moments, in the small habits she didn't value, in your quiet presence, in your steady consistency, in your way of supporting without demanding. And there, reality hits her hard. She didn't just lose someone who loved her, she lost a stable, present, rare man. A man who wasn't loud but brought real security. And now it's gone. Something very concrete emerges. Nostalgia mixed with guilt. Nostalgia for what she had and didn't protect. Guilt for thinking you'd always be there. She wonders when she started taking you for granted, when she stopped valuing your efforts, why she didn't see the signs. But there are no longer answers that change anything. There are only memories and your silence. She begins to idealize you, not out of pure sentiment, but because the human mind magnifies what it loses. She now sees you as the man who was truly there, who brought something real, who never wavered. Every positive memory becomes a reminder of her mistake, because now she understands that not all men support, not all stay, not all know how to be present without drama. You did, and she lost you. Meanwhile, you keep moving forward, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Your life starts feeling lighter, your mind clearer, your energy returns to you, even if you don't fully realize it yet. Your calm contrasts sharply with her inner chaos. While she relives what was, you're no longer there. This stage is essential for you, not to take pleasure in her pain, but to understand that leaving was right, that you didn't overreact, that you didn't give up too soon, that you didn't lose something irreplaceable. What was irreplaceable was you, and when a man truly grasps that, closure comes on its own. She begins to feel the loss. You begin to feel something far more important: true relief. Silent regret, not the kind shouted or confessed, but the kind suffered alone, the kind that appears when there's no way back. She mentally reviews every moment she could have done things differently, every gesture she downplayed, every time she assumed your presence was guaranteed. She searches for the point of no return. Was it a conversation, a decision, an attitude? She can't find a clear moment, and that torments her even more because the truth is simple and cruel. She didn't lose you in one instant. She lost you little by little until the day you were gone. When a woman realizes she pushed a man of value too far, the blow is deep. She feels small next to the image she now has of you. Not because you're humiliating her, but because you're not coming back. Because your silence doesn't ask for forgiveness, doesn't seek explanation, doesn't try to save anything. Your silence confirms you made a decision with clarity, and that clarity confronts her with her own mistake, not knowing how to care for someone who was truly ready to support. Here, a dangerous mix appears for her: guilt and desire. Guilt for not having valued you. Desire to recover something she can no longer control, but both feelings hit the same wall: your firm absence. The firmer it is, the more she understands there's no way back, that she no longer has access to you, that what she lost can't be regained with an impulsive message. While she mentally punishes herself with what-ifs, you continue building your calm. You no longer analyze, justify, or doubt. Your mind clears because you've stopped being where you weren't a priority. And that peace you now have is the clearest confirmation you did the right thing. Because when walking away brings you tranquility, it wasn't a loss, it was liberation. Remember this well: she isn't suffering because she loves you more now. She's suffering because she understands what she lost. And you're not winning because she's suffering. You're winning because you chose yourself. Here, her regret grows, and your conviction strengthens. Here emerges the feeling that destabilizes a woman most when she realizes you won't return. Definitive fear. Not fear of being alone or of the future in general, but the specific fear of having lost a man who no longer needs her. Because there's something deeply unsettling about realizing the man who was once available is now complete without her. She starts noticing signs she didn't see before. Your life goes on. There are no indirect messages, no attempts to provoke a reaction, no anger. And that worries her more than any reproach, because anger still connects, but detached calm closes doors. And without saying it, you're closing yours with serenity. Her mind enters a silent loop. She wonders if you've already moved on, if you no longer think about her, if you're now that centered, firm man who doesn't revolve around anyone. The more she imagines this version of you, the smaller her place in your story becomes. She's no longer the center, no longer the reference, no longer necessary. That hurts more than any breakup. Meanwhile, you're in a different emotional place. You don't celebrate her discomfort. You don't need her to suffer. You're simply at peace. And that peace is the clearest message of all. You didn't leave to punish. You left to take care of yourself. And when a woman understands that, she grasps something hard to accept. She lost an integrous man, not a resentful one. She starts feeling she can no longer occupy the same space with you, that if she ever spoke again, it wouldn't have the same effect, that your silences aren't voids, they're closures. And that closure confronts her with a harsh truth. There are men you only value when they're gone, and you've become one of them. This part is essential for you because here, not only does she understand you won't return, but you internally confirm you don't need to. Her fear comes from your stability. Your stability comes from choosing yourself. And when a man reaches that point, there's no emotional going back. She feels it, and you know it. Here something happens that she never imagined feeling with you. She starts idealizing you, not because you suddenly changed, but because your absence forces her to see clearly what she had and didn't protect. When you're gone, your image grows in her mind, not from romantic nostalgia, but from comparison. And in that comparison, you win. She remembers your quiet presence, your consistency without noise, your way of supporting without demanding, your emotional stability. She realizes not all men offer that. Not all know how to be present without controlling, suffocating, or disappearing. The more she thinks about it, the more she sees you weren't ordinary. You were rare, one of those men who aren't common. And when they leave a void that isn't easily filled. Here the inevitable comparison appears. She compares you to others, those who came after or were there before. And the comparison doesn't favor them because others promise but don't support. Others talk but don't act. Others are there but don't bring calm. And that's when she understands something painful to accept. She lost a complete man, not a half one. While she idealizes, you're no longer there to confirm or deny anything. And that makes it all stronger. There's no way to correct the memory, nuance it, or go back. Your image remains fixed in her mind as the man who knew how to leave without hurting, without humiliating, without begging. And that way of leaving weighs more than any desperate attempt to stay. This point is important for you, not to feed an empty ego, but to close the wound, to understand you didn't leave because you weren't worth enough. You left because you were worth too much to stay where you weren't cared for. That's the truth she's starting to see now, when she can do nothing about it. And while she rebuilds your image from absence, you rebuild your life from presence, from your center, from your calm. You no longer need her to remember you, idealize you, or regret because you're already in a different emotional place, a higher, more stable, cleaner one. She starts looking back with idealization. You look forward with conviction. And in that contrast, something very simple is confirmed. Not returning was your best decision. This is where everything falls into place for you. After understanding what she feels, after seeing how her mind rebuilds what she lost, comes the most important moment of all, emotional closure. Not hers, yours. The point where you no longer need to imagine her regret to feel good. You understand it and you let it go. She continues dealing with thoughts that come and go, with memories that appear unexpectedly, with the uncomfortable feeling of having let go of a man who brought calm, stability, and real presence. But that no longer belongs to you. It's her process, her lesson, her burden, and for the first time, it's not yours. Here something very powerful happens in you. You stop justifying yourself. You no longer wonder if you did the right thing. You no longer replay conversations looking for mistakes. You no longer blame yourself for leaving because you see the full picture. You see that your silence wasn't punishment, it was self-care. You see that walking away wasn't abandonment, it was self-respect. And that clarity gives you a tranquility you didn't know before. You start feeling proud, not for being better than her, but for staying true to yourself. Proud of not playing games, not begging, not betraying yourself to hold on to something that no longer gave you peace. Proud of having the courage to close a door when it meant losing yourself. This is the moment you understand you didn't win because she's suffering, but because you healed. That your progress doesn't depend on her regret, but on your decision. That her pain isn't your victory. Your victory is the calm that now lives in you. The calm that accompanies you when you walk, think, sleep. She stayed looking back. You learned to look forward. And in that silent, firm, definitive movement, there's a truth no one can take from you. Not returning was the most honest act you've ever done for yourself. Because not all men know how to leave. Not all know how to let go. Not all know how to prioritize themselves without hatred. You do. What comes now isn't doubt. It's certainty. And certainty is the foundation of your new life. Here, her process ends, but yours truly begins. Because when she discovers you won't return, when there's no more message, no attempt, no reaction, something settles definitively in her. She lost you. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she didn't know how to care for you when you were there. And that understanding comes late. It always comes late. She now understands you weren't just any man, that you weren't replaceable, that you weren't easy to find. She starts seeing clearly that you were the kind of man who gives without noise, who supports without imposing, who stays without disappearing. And realizing that when you're gone hurts. It hurts because there's no way to fix it. Your silence isn't punishment, it's closure. And while she processes that loss, you're in a different emotional place. You no longer need validation. You no longer need her to regret. You no longer need her to understand anything because your well-being no longer depends on her gaze. It depends on the decision you made to leave when staying hurt you. And that decision gave you something priceless, your peace. Remember this well, not returning didn't make you cold, not returning didn't make you cruel, not returning made you whole. You left quietly, without blame, without humiliating. You left with your dignity intact, and that's exactly what she feels now. Not anger, not hatred, but belated respect. The respect that only appears when a man shows he knows how to walk away without breaking himself. She lost the chance to have you. You gained the certainty of never abandoning yourself again. And that's the real victory. Not in her pain, but in your growth. Not in her regret, but in your clarity. Because today, you no longer doubt. Today, you no longer look back. Today, you know you did what was right, even if it hurt. And that security is the foundation of everything that comes next. Always remember this and keep it with you as a final closure. She lost something precious, but you gained the most important thing of all, yourself.